My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family, I'm Cloud Hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
All right, welcome everybody to another special Cloud Career Q&A session from us at Cloud Careers. If you just joined us for our subnetting workshop, we are excited to have you here. If you did not join us for the subnetting workshop, we're still happy to have you here. Absolutely. But go back and watch that subnetting workshop. Anyway, Mike, I'll let you welcome us to the to this Q&A session, and then I got some stuff to put on the screen for you. Oh, while Mike is talking, put some questions in the chat box for us.
Absolutely. So welcome, everyone. We're here to answer any questions you have about building a cloud computing career. Maybe your goal is to become a cloud architect or a cloud engineer. And believe me, they're 100% different in their jobs, even though people confuse them. If you train for one and you want the other, you're not going to be prepared or hireable. So that's why we do these things, to make sure you have it. Maybe you want to be a network architect or an enterprise architect. It doesn't matter. I've spent over 25 years working in tech, and I've spent more than 2 decades helping people just like you get their first tech job, get promoted, get 6-figure raises, negotiate $100,000 stock grants, and everywhere in between. And I want to help you build an elite cloud computing career. So we're here to answer any questions you may have. We know the shortest way to get you a cloud architect job. We know how to go from an engineer to an architect, and believe me, it's specialist training. We know how to go from not working in the cloud, like Daniel Boso, who was working at Nordstrom, or Jennifer Emu, who was a mental health tech, or Noah, who was a social worker, or Balwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom, or Wallace, who all became cloud architects or enterprise architects after our training program. And I could give you a laundry list of people that's like a mile long, and I love doing it, but my team would say, Mike, you can't mention every single person that didn't come from tech that got their first job as a senior cloud architect. But you know, it's exciting for me because I grew up and studied internal medicine, and I worked in that job. I liked it, but I worked in that job. And I went to tech, and let me tell you, I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life. People paid me for my hobby. I can't believe I got to earn money, literally speaking, to go visit people, meet people, buy lunches, dinners, and drinks. Got to go to beautiful places like Greece, which is actually home, but I got to teach at Athens University as part of work. Worked in Dubai, worked in England, worked all over Australia, worked in Central America, South America, met incredible people, you name it, I've been almost everywhere. And being a cloud architect, network architect, enterprise architect, business architect, for me, was the coolest thing. I did a short stint in engineering. Wasn't my thing, but trained lots of engineers, and they're happy too. We got to do what we love. So welcome, everyone. Ask us your questions so we can help you build an elite career.
Love that, Mike. Sorry, I had to buzz you there. You were getting way too into it there. So no. let's hear from Alonzo. Alonzo, what's going on with you? Nobody got to see you earlier.
I know. You know what? I was too busy in the stands with everyone else enjoying that subnetting. That was rock solid. You and Leo knocked it out of the park. I enjoyed that. You know, I even as a cloud architect myself, being able to renew and refresh those skills are so important and pivotal. So yeah, I enjoyed myself. So I was there, but now I'm in the forefront with you guys, here to answer any questions people have, and I'm looking forward to that.
All right. So before we get to some of these questions, I do want to let everybody know we have a new Elite Cloud Architect program that we're going to be starting next month, but we're only taking 10 enrollments for this program. At the beginning, we're only going to be taking 10. So what are we going to do? We are going to have a free information webinar for you this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I believe Tyrone is over there in the chat box. Yep, Tyrone got it there. Tyrone's got the link to register for this free webinar in the chat box. Join us on this webinar so that we can tell you all about this new and exciting program. It's a combination of our career development program, our existing award-winning career development program, plus several additional key components that are going to be exclusive to this that will set you apart from everyone else. So if your desire is to become a cloud architect, and not just a cloud architect, but an elite cloud architect, and have a long-term successful career, join that webinar and learn how. So got that out of the way. Now, the first thing that I want to bring up is while we were in our countdown, Trey Nell says, pass my CCNA thanks to your channel. Now I'm learning cloud, and I'm a cloud engineer for a large government contractor company.
Good job.
Exclamation point. Congratulations, Trey Nell.
Awesome. Awesome.
We love getting these unsolicited, just impromptu notifications that people have had success. So let's get some congratulations in there. Let's get a hashtag cloud hired in the chat box for Trey Nell. That is very exciting news. So
Very.
thank you for sharing that with us. And I saw a question from Kevin Jalap. I feel like you're an existing student, Kevin.
Yes.
Okay. How is the elite intake compared to normal architect class? We're going to be sharing some information with our existing students about that tomorrow. So if by intake you mean how to enroll, we'll cover that with you guys tomorrow. Make sure you're watching Slack. We'll also send an email out for our existing students. But pretty straightforward. You enroll. Click the button, type in your information. If you're an existing student, you log in. But as an existing student, I was gonna save this for tomorrow, but I guess I'll go ahead and say it now, Mike, if that's all right with you.
It's fine.
All right. So obviously, the Elite Cloud Architect program does include access to our Cloud Architect career development program. So for existing students that are interested in upgrading, you can upgrade, of course, and you'll be credited for the cost of that Cloud Architect career development program. So you won't, as an existing student who's already enrolled in that program, you won't be paying the full price because you've already enrolled in part of one of the components. So that's why I said we'll share some information with you guys on Slack and by email tomorrow so that we get the wording exactly right to guide you guys in the right direction. So please don't take my directions from YouTube at all. Please don't. But that's a good question there, Kevin. Thank you for asking that. But we really do. We're looking forward to this webinar so that we can share with you and answer every question that everybody has. Because if you want to be one of those 10 people in the opening batch, then we want to make sure you get your questions answered and get in there without delay. So I saw a question. Loving this question. We're getting this question a lot lately. Mike, we'll start with you. How will AI affect the jobs of cloud architects?
Carlo, I'm going to give you an answer, and we're going to have to separate the difference between an architect and an engineer. AI will create many more jobs for cloud architects. And here's the thing about architect jobs. Because we don't touch the technology and we design the technology, because we meet with clients and ask them about their business goals, their technology goals, their pain points, because we have to present the technology to the people and influence their buying decisions, because we have to, ideally, if we're good at what we do, we actually can influence the customer and what their request for information, request for proposal, and request for quotes are going to be. Because as architects, we have to present at conferences and sell to the client and negotiate the client. AI is good for us. It creates new jobs. Because what is the job of the architect really when you pull it down to it? How do I leverage this AI thing, this cloud thing, this blockchain thing, this security thing, this networking thing, this data center thing to make my clients more successful? So the more new technologies that come, the more architect jobs become. Now, Carlo, I'm going to caution you. The better your business skills are, the better the architect's jobs will be in the future world. Because what's special for us is our humanity. An architect is a very human position. So I like to say celebrate your humanity. And you'll always hear me talking about celebrating your humanity because the architect is a customer-facing role. It's out there in the customer's face. You're in there buying them lunches and dinners and drinks. You're playing golf with them. You're going to the Super Bowl with box seats because your company buys it so you can entertain your clients. You're taking them to dinner. You're drinking with your clients, having good scotch with your clients. That is a role where your humanity makes you irreplaceable. So for the architect, AI is big. It means more jobs. But, Carlo, it means more elite skills. It means it's not just about designing the tech. It's about showing the client how that tech can impact their business. It's about understanding the client's needs and evaluating what's good for them. Again, architect jobs, boom, in a world of new technology like artificial intelligence, because you're not going to find AI that's going to sell $1 billion solution to the CEO. I promise you that's not going to happen. You're not going to have AI ask the chief information officer the questions about their tech and their business for you to make a decision. You're not going to be able to use AI to experience things from a customer perspective and see what feels good and what doesn't. And you're not going to be using AI as an architect to build a team of people that are going to design it and the solution. So for the architects, Carlo, this is the best thing in the world. Now for the engineers, this is terrible. But I'm going to give you the secrets if you want to be a cloud engineer, how to not be replaced with technology too. For hands-on technology people like software developers, this is terrifying because AI can code. And AI does not ask for a raise. AI doesn't do quiet quitting. AI doesn't, get tired at 5 o'clock. AI doesn't go on a vacation. AI doesn't get sick. For hands-on only people, like programmers, AI should be terrifying. For DevOps engineers, AI should be terrifying. So let's think about it this way. For the engineers of the bunch, if they develop their business acumen skills, their leadership skills, their communication skills, their emotional intelligence skills, and their team building skills, now that engineer, whether it be a cloud engineer or a software engineer, moves into something called the distinguished engineer world. Now, the distinguished engineer world is a $250,000 plus position, and it has been for decades. And while the hands-on techie skills will be less valuable here, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But for the engineers that love the tech, we're still going to need people that can tune those automation scripts or the code generated by AI. We still need them, but we're going to need a lot less of them. So if those engineers, those special engineers, develop a lot of those business skills in common with the architects, guess what? Now they're celebrating their humanity as well. And we have a world of architects that truthfully focus 80% on the business and 20% on the tech. And then we've got these distinguished engineers that are 50% tech, 50% business. Now they have a career too. But for people that think they're going to build a career by getting a bunch of certifications, no matter how complicated they are all really intro-level skills. And AI can pass any certification exam like nothing. And AI can write a Terraform script or a Python script or a Bash script or any kind of software you need. It only needs minor tuning. So AI is the best thing to ever happen for architects. And kind of keep that in there. So, Chris, Alonzo, how do you see these technologies affecting business and even work-life balance? Because it'll help there.
Well, you think, Mike, when it comes to AI, I mean, it's already disrupting a lot of the industry, specifically hiring, HR, and how they're answering questions. And you spoke to a lot of what AI does. They don't need health breaks, mental health breaks. They don't need, although important, they don't need work-life balance, vacations. There's no issues with HR and involving cultural differences and a lot of the things that make us human. And while we're sleeping and needing rest, AI is continually realizing and completing these tasks. So we have to be able to exercise our human component and how important that is to us building those relationships and being able to capitalize on those nuances that make us so special and how we interconnect with one another. And, you know, you think about how the people that we build our relationships with are the ones we want to do business with. Those opportunities equate to more generation of revenue for stakeholders, for businesses, and so forth. So focus on what creates and what enhances our humanity, ergo these cloud architectural positions, and less on jobs that focus on automation, which is DevOps and engineering and so forth. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, you said something really really succinct there, that we build relationships with the people that we want to do business with. Mm-hmm. People, there's two things to that. People don't want to do business with AI.
Yeah.
They also don't want to build relationships with AI. It's just, so those two things right there for the cloud architect role, that's your starting point. You're the one that people want to build a relationship with, a person or people, and that's where you're going to have an opportunity. You're not going to inherently be successful just because you're human. Right. You're going to have the opportunity to, as Mike says, celebrate your humanity, embrace your humanity, because that's what's going to set you apart as a cloud architect. Absolutely not, Carlo. We do not plan on stopping the current program. No. Sorry, saw that question pop up. No, not at all. We will have both available. So make sure you tune into that webinar Thursday night. Sign up on the registration page. Tyrone, if you'll put that link back in the chat box, I would appreciate it.
And we'll get to that question in a bit as well, and answer it in more depth.
But yeah. And another thing with AI is just like every advance in technology. Every version of the Industrial Revolution, it's the same thing. The World Wide Web, when it came about, everybody was asking, what is this going to do for jobs, these types of jobs and those types of jobs. And the thing is that every advance in technology inherently leads to more jobs, more careers. And the cloud architect, solution architect is one of those that's going to become more. There's going to be more. Even with the cloud engineer, we talk about how the cloud engineer, the software developers, they're going to be impacted by it. You're not going to see the total number go down, because they'll need the amount of work will just keep growing and growing. The number will probably not go down, but the percentage, as it relates to the percentage of cloud engineer jobs of the job market right now versus the percentage of cloud engineer jobs of the job market 10 years from now, the percentage will go down. But so it will look on the cover like, oh yeah, cloud engineers aren't being impacted, because they still got a lot of job openings. But then you see all these other cloud architect jobs keep getting more and more and more, and other roles keep getting more and more and more. So anyway, yeah, so advances in technology always lead to more of everything. So let's see here. Next question. From Mark. Having trained thousands of people, what would you say are some of the common challenges that you've seen people face as you developed them into architects, and what has helped them overcome these? Ooh, I know this one is for you, Mike, but I also want to chime in on this too, from my observations of in general, not just architects, but But yeah, this one's we're gonna start with you, Mike.
Mark, and it's an incredibly quick question. And it's a few things. First problem is most people don't realize what an architect is. And what I say this is they mix up an architect and as an engineer. When you become an architect, you will never touch the technology. You'll be entertaining clients. You'll be delivering presentations, responding for RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. You'll be building large teams. You'll be going to meetings. You'll be presenting at conferences. But what you won't be is touching the technology. And when people don't have a tech background and we train them to be architects, it's pretty easy because we're excellent at teaching people everything they need to be an architect. And I've got people at every major company you can that have left our program with zero background and made them great architects. But when someone comes from an engineering background, they often struggle. And the reason they struggle is they're focused on the tech. Because to be a really good engineer, you have to be really, really focused on the tech. But when you're focused on the tech, you can't focus on the business. You can't focus on the digital transformation because you can only focus on one thing. So I'd say the first big problem that we see, and when I get my engineers, and Mark, you're one of those top 1% engineers you could find in the entire world, and even the top 10th of 1%. You're that good. But when you go from being that good, and I was one of the original CCIEs, and I remember when I left engineering for architecture, I wanted to touch the tech. Everybody's trying to tell me what's going on in the network, and I didn't believe them, and I telnetted into a router. Yes, in those days we used telnet. And as soon as I went into that router and started looking at that big, juicy BGP forwarding information base and routing information base, I lost focus on the big picture, and I missed something. So there's that is the focus on the tech versus the focus on the business and transformation. The second set of it really is this the thinking of an architect. You know, as an architect, we're dealing with business issues and we're speaking to business people primarily. And I gotta tell you, no matter how cool RSVP signaling is for an MPLS traffic engineered tunnel, I promise you the CEO of any business doesn't care about it unless they're the CEO of Verizon or a telecom. And even then they don't care, but at least then it's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna make money on this. But the CEO doesn't care about that. So it's the CXO relevancy. I would tell you people get in their own way. And what do I mean by that? Some people are just afraid of change. It's like, I've done this for a long time and this makes me uncomfortable. So it's really that. So, you know, making architects, and also, Mark, I got to tell you, most people's friends actually hurt them. And what I mean by this is you go tell your friends, I'm going to do this. And then they tell you no. Or your friends are in the same career. Maybe you're a network engineer and your goal is to be an enterprise architect. And your network engineering buddies are worried about getting 30 certifications because the engineers like certifications. And in architecture, if you've got 30 certifications on your resume, the hiring manager is saying, I don't want you. You're a techie, not an architect. So, you know, there's that. And the biggest problem I've seen people get, and you can see it every day, you can have someone like John Chambers speak on YouTube. John Chambers pretty much, you can almost think of him as the grandfather of the internet. Granted, it was made by DARPA first. And John Chambers shaped the networking industry. And he goes and speaks, and, you know, 500 people will listen to what he has to say. And then you'll have somebody that's never been a cloud architect in their entire life or graduated a training program, and 100,000 people are going to listen to what they say. So it's not just architecture or engineers. It's actually where to get the right information from. Most people surround themselves with what I call bad information. And they take in all the bad information, and without getting the right information, they make the wrong decisions. So, you know, Mark, I know you. If you're going to figure out networking and you want to look into a routing protocol, the first thing you're going to do is read the Internet Engineering Task Force RFC. Then you're going to read the Cisco Press books. Then you're going to read the Juniper books. You're not going to go to Fred Ants Martha's blog. You're going to start with the right information. So accessing quality information to me is really critical. Who's been there? Who's a CEO in this industry? Who's a VP in this industry? Who's a director in this industry? Who's a principal architect in this industry? Who's actually done the job and been successful? I'd say from my perspective, getting the right information is probably the right thing to do. And I see a lot of people error there. Now, Chris, you've been with me. We've trained a few thousand people together in our programs. And same for Alonzo. What have you seen?
Yeah, I'll start off here, and I'm actually going to just talk. I'm not going to talk from the aspect of our program. I'm just going to talk from in general. And you hit a couple of them. Focus.
Yeah.
Focus. Being focused. And part of that is getting the right information and having a plan.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, and the key with the plan is you can't do everything. So there's a book, and she wasn't the one that did it, but there, Angela Duckworth in the book Grit. I'm trying to remember who did it. Oh, so Warren Buffett. I love his approach to figuring out goals.
Yes.
Sit down, make a list of your top 20 or top 25 goals. And then you whittle that one down to 5. And you say, okay, 5 are my goal. Everything else goes out the window. Don't focus on those. But what the thing is that the reason Angela Duckworth came to my mind is that the likelihood that those 20 that you're going to throw out the window are actually like a means to an end for those top 5 is probably very high. And so what I'm getting at is having a plan and figuring out what you want to do is probably like if you've got 20 things that are part of your plan, they gotta work towards an ultimate goal. And so a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that these are unrelated things, like gonna do this, gotta do this, I want to do that. Well, once you sit down and you think about it, you look at it and you realize, oh, well, this goal that I've got is really just a step towards this other goal. And I need to do this. So planning, focus, and realizing when you need to change your plan.
Yeah.
Something not working, don't just keep doing it because it's part of the plan. So those are the biggest challenges and mistakes that I see. Is I will see people beat their heads against the wall because it's what they're supposed to be doing or their plan. And it's like, no, that's not working for you. You got to reevaluate. You've got to take a step back, take a break, pause, go talk to somebody. Say, hey, here's what's happening. Talk to the right person. Talk to the right people. Surround yourself with the right people. Douglas put it in the chat box over here. His parents say that his efforts and his training is crazy. So make sure you're surrounding and not saying that he shouldn't surround himself with his family, but when it comes to this, surround yourself with the right people and make sure you're getting the information from the right places. So those are a lot of the same mistakes. And I'm talking from every aspect of my professional career, not just with working with architects or with engineers. That's something that I see, regardless of the role, regardless of even in a non-career environment, I see these same mistakes happening.
Yeah.
So, Alonzo, what are your thoughts there?
I totally agree. And a lot of some of this from my younger years, career-wise, distractions. And one of the biggest distractions that a lot of millennials, Gen Zers, and even Gen Xers is social media.
Yeah.
I flick open, say, for instance, anything. Next thing you know, you're flipping over to the next story, a minute, half an hour, more than an hour goes past. And at the end of the day, you've seen a lot, and there's still much more to see. But at the end of the day, I come back, it's like you eat this food, and 30 minutes later, you're hungry. So you realize that you haven't been edified, you haven't learned anything, but you've given away the most important commodity known to man, and that is time. It's like real estate. You can find real estate, you can trade off real estate, but you can never trade off time. It comes, it goes, that's it. So understanding how important your day is, planning your day, make sure your day is full of the priorities, doing the work, focusing on your tasks, understanding that that task may require a longer time frame, breaking them down into incremental bites, getting those incremental wins instead of gulping it all at one time. Because if we focus on that large task and we don't complete that large task in some mental unrealistic time frame, then we get defeated, we give up, we quit, and we never pick up that task again, or some external revisitation or focus on that reminds you of that task, and then you go back and look at your game plan and try to figure out where you left off at that moment of defeat. We always need to focus on that time frame and being able to the word no. Not no to your goals, no to everyone else. No, I can't go out with you tonight. No, I can't do this. No, I can't do that. Because like Chris said, you're rattling off those 20 priorities that you think are important. Then you cut it by a fourth, which is, focusing on those top 5 right there. So you think about how much time does that take? How are you going to prioritize it with your everyday life, wife, family, kids, work, responsibilities, any community service work that you do or anything else? You have to make that time to make your goals come true, and that requires that discipline. So focusing on your discipline, eliminating those yeses when they should be nos, and make sure you have the incremental wins. Reward yourself and say, you know what, I did well today. Go and buy your favorite dinner or whatever it is to reward yourself, but never quit. Each foot creates a mile, and that mile is going to always get you to your destination if you don't quit.
Yeah, and I want to just highlight one thing that Douglas said, because I think it was so important. Douglas said his parents think he was crazy. When I left internal medicine and I told people I was going to work in networking, they laughed at me. Mm-hmm. When I told people I was going to get a job as a network engineer, everybody gave me this nonsense and told me I had to work in help desk or be a network admin first. And of course, my first job was a network engineer. I actually went out there and asked the VPs and the executives in the companies that I could find, what is the perfect network architect? And everybody else was just trying to get certifications. But I asked the executives, what is the perfect architect? 2 years later, I was a principal architect. The rest of my competition had racked up 10 and 15 and 20 certifications, but they never got promoted at all. So if people are telling you crazy, it's a good thing. I promise you people told Steve Jobs he was crazy. I promise you people told Bill Gates he was crazy. Anybody that's done any change or anybody that's done anything major has been told you can't do that, give up. So I like what Douglas said there.
Yeah, I think a lot about some of the things that I've had challenges on, whether it's military related, evolutions, things of that matter. And remember, and there's no disrespect to anyone's loved ones, but if somehow they feel that if they can't do it, in their minds, no one else can either. So either they do that out of fear, out of disinterest, or the fact that they don't understand its value has no translation or bearing on your skill set, your goals and trajectory, which is why I've learned early on that any dreams that I have, if it was meant for them, they would have the same dream. They would have the same goals, but that dream came to you. So you protect your dream, you protect your goals through discipline, saying no, and the ability to realize and stay focused on that so that you can be what you want to be. Because 6 months, a year from now, your life can be totally different if you learn to say no and stay focused.
Yeah. And just to chime in here before we move to the next question, that, most of the time that fear that Alonso is referring to is fear for you as a family member. Fear
Yes.
that making they want to make sure that you're safe and so that's a lot of the time where that fear is for them as a family member. They want to make sure that you're not doing something that's detrimental to you. So I wanted to put that out there. That
Yeah.
because I know you prefaced that with that caveat that you weren't trying to be mean or hurtful or anything to somebody's family members, but that's what and I knew that part was what you were talking about, was that
Appreciate
figuring out
that.
how that fear thing would come out. Well, that's what you meant. Am I correct?
Yes, you are straight on, Chris. So I appreciate that save right there, because our loved ones want the best for us, but if they don't understand its value, they automatically assume the failure will hurt us, when in fact you're spot on with what you're doing. And I've seen in movies, real life, and in probably your personal life, the things that I've had a chance to succeed at. Like, case in point, there were so many people. I went to Japan. I went there I took a break from work. I stacked up the money, pulled from my savings. I went there. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any of the students. I didn't know any of it, but I knew that was my goal. People didn't understand it. They didn't see its value, let alone the ability to go learn a language in a new country with people in an immersion situation. And ironically, I came back a totally different person, and the same people who didn't think that I could do it are doing the same thing in the same corner every day. And when I came back, it was an amazing realization that the more you grow, the further away from these people you will feel. You'll feel less attached to them. You will feel less in common with them. And to this day, unfortunately, there's little to no growth with these people that I've come to, I've known, and ultimately lost interest because we had no more connections.
All right. So our next question from Kevin: what advice would you give in terms of how to advance from a cloud architect to enterprise architect? I presume more business acumen.
Yeah, Kevin. So the short answer is our Elite Cloud Architect program was really designed to really help you to get to these more elite goals. But it's all about your business acumen. So what happens is a cloud architect, we're about 50% technology professional, 50% business executive. When we move into these enterprise architect worlds, we're almost an interface between the chief information officer and the cloud architects, the CEO and the cloud architect. So it's much more business acumen. It's also much more polish. This is a huge finesse job, because you're going to be walking into this team and this team into this team, and you need to make decisions which are going to affect, which people are still employed and not employed, and which people you're going to reallocate to different positions. And you're going to be interacting with people that made mistakes, interacting people with did things correctly. You're going to be doing a lot of vendor management, a lot of architect management, a lot of executive management, a tremendous amount of stakeholder management. So it's a lot more business. That was the point of our How to Make More Money in Tech program, or our Tech Leadership program, which we're going to rename it. And it's really about those skills. See, I prefer to work in the enterprise world, whether it's in the cloud, off the cloud. I just like the business side of it more. But it's really about business, business, business. And there's a TOGAF certification, and it's not a bad certification, but it doesn't really teach architecture, but it's not a bad certification. I do like the framework. At least it helps people think about architecture from a perspective. But, the real enterprise architect certification is an MBA or the equivalent of it. And you don't have to have an MBA. I know lots of enterprise architects that don't. In fact, I know some enterprise architects right now that left our program and became enterprise architects and are in MBA programs. I also know Jermaine, who was a landscaper before he took our program, who's now an enterprise architect, or Wallace Agana, who's an enterprise architect after our program as well. But the people that are in these roles have a lot of finesse, lots and lots and lots of finesse. So it's about developing finesse, developing the business acumen, developing the relationship developing abilities. Kevin, you are a super smart person. I know exactly who you are. Where you're at right now at your young age, I can't even imagine where you're going to be in a couple of years. Focus on those elite business acumen skills, and the career you have will be incredible.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the next one. You said that you wanted to.
Why don't we go to the
this
ATS question? Let's do this, and then we'll get to the ATS question while we have Robert here. So, Carlo, we are not going to get rid of our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Now, I got to tell you, I am beyond excited about the Elite Architect Program. It took people with hundreds of years of experience, several $1 million of education, well over the content of multiple PhDs, multiple MBAs, at least 1,000 professional development books in technology, business, psychology, sociology, economics, neurolinguistic programming, and finance to really put something to this together. This is a culmination of my life's work, business school professors, executives that I know in companies, and some of the world's finest instructors. So why are we creating this? I don't want to get rid of our Cloud Architect Career Development Program ever. I love it. In fact, in the last month, I actually created 75 new pieces of content. It's actually more than that, and it's going to be deployed soon. Because as new technology like AI changes, as the economy changes, we constantly adapt that program. Because that is our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job program. And we are never going to get rid of that. We love that program. And it is one of the 3 modules in our Elite Architect program. And that's why we're going to keep it. But what's different about the Elite Architect program? See, if we have the Cloud Architect Career Development Program to help you get your first architect job, and then we can give you a little more. We can give you the business acumen skills you might get in an MBA program, and all the executive skills you wouldn't get in an MBA program. And then we can add a couple of executive coaching sessions in there. And then we can add some additional training to give you a competitive advantage. And then we can have some extra cool interview work and private interview things. We're not just going to help you get your first cloud architect job like you would in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. This additional executive weekend training that we do, for example, and some of the evening training that we do is really designed to help you 2 or 3 years from now get better jobs that require business acumen. See, Carlo, if you go to salary.com, you'll see the average salary of someone with business acumen skills is actually $557,000 a year. So the goal of this program is to prepare you for roles like the principal architect job, which I had in 2 years, which you can see the average principal architect at Google earns about $508,000 a year. Or a senior director job at Palo Alto, which would be a perfect job after a couple of years as an architect, pays well over $500,000 a year at $540 on average. Or a senior director at Cisco a couple of years into your career, which pays about $527 on average. And even a principal architect at Microsoft pays $380,000 a year. But if you notice on these jobs, the range is $300 to $495. So notice that you're dealing with still an extra $120,000, $130,000 a year that's on the table from the average salary of all these positions. And the range is $200 to $300 between the top and bottom paid person. And it's not based upon your experience. It's based upon how desirable you are. What are the skills that you possess? Do you have this business acumen? Do you have the finesse? Can you really crush the interview? So that's why we have the Elite Architect program. The average cloud architect salary is $200,000 a year, and we deliver, results like that almost every day in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. But I want people to not only get the first architect job, but 2 years later get a $500,000, or 3 years later be on the $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000 jobs. That's the Elite Architect program for people that want to accelerate their career, want to accelerate their earnings. And we still use the Cloud Architect Career Development Program in that program. It's just a lot more to get you those high-end careers in the future. And please register for the webinar on Thursday. This is a program that will change everyone's life, and I encourage you to attend.
All right, Tyrone, if you'll put that link back in the chat box for the information session on Thursday, that'll be great. All right. Thank you for that, Mike. All right, here's the question from Ryan about what is the magic of getting past HR applicant tracking systems when we are bombarded with chances but lack the skill set getting to the right people who are hiring?
So, Ryan, if you're applying for jobs and you don't have an experience, you're going to get auto-rejected, kicked out by HR, and never get hired. You can't apply for jobs and expect to get hired. Robert Welch, if you're still here, tell me how many people you got reaching out to you to offer you jobs. I think I remember it was between 5 and 20 people per day that wanted to interview you. So Robert Welch, if you're still here, please respond to that. Robert Welch is a phenomenal cloud security architect who took our program. If you're not building your brand, you're not going to get that first job. We have Alonzo, who has 30 plus years as a marketing executive. He's our chief marketing officer, and he teaches our students how to build our brand. If you've got a good brand, people will literally come and recruit you. I make a YouTube video. If I had to remove cloud architect from my title, because with every YouTube video that I made where I actually talked about how to be a great architect or what architects do, and I talked about not coding, not configuring, not DevOps, not this, I would get bombarded. Mike, I want you on my team. Mike, I want you on the team. Mike, would you train my architects? Mike, we start paying at $400,000 a year. Are you interested? And I love training students, and I was tired of getting bombarded. So I changed my cloud architect title to CEO title. You have to build a brand, and you have to go be trained by a company that has a brand. I wrote well over 100 magazine articles last year in Forbes, Investors Business Daily, Data Center Magazine, Information Week, etc. And why do I do it? Because in these articles, there's always something that talks about our training program and why we train our students differently. And who reads these articles that we write? Yeah, Robert Welch, as he said, 10 to 20 recruiters each day would reach out to him after making LinkedIn posts following the training that was in our program. And of course, he was part of our brand. So, is the place that's doing your training being known as a world expert? I was featured in CEO Weekly, for example. We were featured and awarded #1 school of cloud computing, and employers see these things. So wherever you're training, are they doing work like this? What kind of blogs are you writing? Are you doing what I call the report the news blogs, which show everybody not to hire you? Like here, today I learned about subnetting. That just tells employers you just had to learn a basic fundamental skill. They can't hire you, and I see people do it every day. By comparison, I have a student, Kamal, who's coming from healthcare, and he wrote a beautiful article. He talked about how Microsoft's artificial intelligence, who's partnering with Epic, which is the largest manufacturer of healthcare electronic health records, how their partnership in artificial intelligence can change healthcare delivery, improve healthcare quality, decrease healthcare costs, prevent healthcare deaths. And it was so well written, that's the kind of thing that get employers to come to you. So what are you doing to build your brand? What do you have on your resume that shows you better? What is on your resume? What is on your LinkedIn profile? Those are the kind of things that promote the branding. And what kind of recruiters do you have in your network? Do you know how to collect the right recruiters? Are they recruiters coming to you? The right recruiter puts you directly in front of the hiring manager. Here's what it's like. Alonzo comes to me through a recruiter. I usually work with Christina. Christina, because I think she's one of the best recruiters I've ever met. I call Christina and say, Christina, I need a cloud architect. What do you want? I need someone that can write well, present well, design, do digital transformation. Christina calls everybody that she knows that's good. Christina calls me 24 hours later and says, Mike, I got this guy, Alonzo Coleman, for you. He's a phenomenal cloud architect. And Chris will have you add a little bit in a minute. He has this skill you want, this skill you want, this skill you want, this skill you want, this skill you want. And I say, great, bring Alonzo in. Now I interview Alonzo, and I'm pre-biased to like him because Christina, the tech recruiter that I love, just told me so. Now I interview Alonzo, and I'm hiring you, Alonzo. Now I call HR, and I call the HR person, and I say, I'm hiring Alonzo Coleman. Just to let you know, he's going to fill out an application. He's already been hired. I want to pay him 1.6 times the average cloud architect salary, which is called the comp ratio in HR terms. I'm going to do this because of his elite business acumen and architect skills, even though he had no experience. I don't care. He's got the competency. And then guess what's going to happen? I'm going to hire him. Now, Ryan, I promise you, 6 months later, Alonzo is going to be promoted because he's that good. And he's going to get an auto rejection letter from HR because he didn't pass the applicant tracking system. But it doesn't matter. He always works here. So you can't be applying for jobs. So come to our Lead Architect webinar or our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, and we'll give you some guidance on avoiding HR and getting past them. Chris or Alonzo, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to chime in here because there's a couple of things just from the text in the question. So getting past HR applicant tracking systems when we are bombarded with chances. Bombarded with chances implies that people are reaching out to you for roles. If people are reaching out to you for roles, then you shouldn't be going through the applicant tracking system. Now, if by bombarded, you mean that you see all these opportunities are available, well, then everything that Mike just said is applicable. So, again, if you're being bombarded by opportunities, by people letting you know that there's opportunities available and that they've got an opportunity for you, then you shouldn't be going through the applicant tracking system. The next thing is, if you lack the skill set, then you shouldn't be applying. So there's a difference between lacking the skill set and having experience. So if you don't have the skill set, then you shouldn't be applying. Now, reading this a little bit further, lacking the skill set of getting to the right people who are hiring, that's everything that Mike just talked about. You're going to have to, instead of job searching for job openings, job search for recruiters.
And
instead of applying for jobs, send connections and build relationships with recruiters. That's my 2 cents here.
And I want to add a little more to that. Ryan actually said something, and it's kind of clear that he needs a little more help. He said the skill set of getting past people, not the skill set for the job. Ryan, if you don't have the skill set to get past people, you need training. You don't have the skill set for the job. We are not engineers. We don't code. We don't configure. We don't do any of that. We have to get past receptionists. We have to get past secretaries. We have to know how to get the skills to do the right meeting for our sales calls and our presentations. So make sure you get the training for that. And I'd be thrilled to help you in any other way I can.
Well, we got some great questions coming in.
Yeah, and there was an interesting, how do you choose the right company and role? What red flags to look out for? Well, when you meet with a company, you're gonna know. Do you like the manager? Do you like what the company stands for? If you're following our routine, Kevin, you're doing the reconnaissance on the company. You're evaluating their financial statements. You're evaluating their balance sheets. You're evaluating their mission. You're looking at what they act and how they act and the way they communicate. Then you're going to interview with them. With a good job, you're going to interview with 4 to 10 people minimum from the time you start. Do you trust the people? Do you like the people? They're kind of out there. Those are the kind of things. If your gut tells you you don't like someone, don't be there. If the company says things that you don't like, don't be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Microsoft is a culture that I really love. So is Cisco. So is IBM. Microsoft had an outage, and look how honest they were the other day. They told you. We were hacked. I like working with straightforward and honest and ethical people. I'm straight shooter. You ask me a question, you got an honest answer, regardless of whether it's what you want to hear or not. I like to be honest. I could tell you that Microsoft would be a culture I would work for. By comparison, if a company had an outage and they gave me some excuse that didn't mean anything, that made me feel like I needed a shower afterwards, that insulted my intelligence, I would not work for that company because they wouldn't support my values of being honest, ethical, and transparent with their people. So look at the way a company acts, not what they say in their marketing messages. What do they do? What do their customers say about them? Kind of keep those things in the back of your mind.
And there are also tons of their platforms, and there will be objective and subjective submissions. But there is the Fishbowl app, and there's also Glassdoor. Lots of different platforms for you to review overall approval percentages of the leadership as well as the reputation of the company. So there are lots of places where you can look, sign in, get the lay of the land on how they feel about things internally, culture, and so forth. So there are opportunities out there, Kevin. You just gotta take a look at them, see what you think.
All right. So we'll be wrapping up here in just a few minutes, everybody. But if you've got any last questions, make sure to put them there in the chat box for us. So our next one is from Vi. As a final year IT student, how can I increase my value to land a solution architect internship at AWS aside from the relevant certification and personal pride?
So Vi, nobody cares about your projects. No one. Solution architects don't do projects, they do architectures. So the chances of anybody getting an internship at AWS are slim to none. Figure they get 1 million applicants and they'll take 20. So I wouldn't try to do that. What I would try and do is actually get a real solution architect job instead of worrying about an internship. AWS now, and the reason there's not a lot of internships is the following. A company's going to have to dedicate a $200,000 or $300,000 architect to go sit with an intern, and the intern can't really do anything of value to the company as a solution architect. They can't interact with clients because they're not a full architect. If they were to design something, they're not going to have the knowledge, and it can cause a customer outage and a customer bankruptcy. So for the most part, there are no solution architect internships. What they have instead is an associate solution architect, which is a junior training position. And here's what it is. They train you, they pay you $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year, and you go to school. Like for 6 months, they put the associate solution architects go to classes. Here's how you would do this. Here's how you would do this. Here's how to do this. And then the reality is you take that and either you get promoted out of it or you get fired and you're completely gone. So that's the equivalent of an internship. It's called an associate solution architect. Now, here's the thing. Why would you even try? So I've got Al the other day who just got a senior solution architect job as his first job, and he never worked in tech. I have people like Sonny, who 2 days ago got a senior solution architect job as his first job. Get yourself some good architect training and get a real architect job as your first job. You won't need a volunteer position. That's why we have our training. It's an internship, and when people graduate, their graduation for them is an actual job. My first job was a senior network engineer. Within 6 months, I was a lead architect. I didn't start at the bottom. You don't need to either. So I would focus on not just the tech, which is what they teach you in school. I'd develop myself some extremely good presentation skills, some extremely soft skills, some extremely good executive presence skills, some extremely good emotional intelligence skills. Learn how to sell. Sell yourself to the hiring manager. Sell yourself to the recruiter. Sell yourself. I'd create some good content. I'd start building my professional brand, and I would get a regular job. The reality is I have 21-year-old Daniel Bosa who didn't graduate high school that got an elite high-paying architect job at JP Chase at 20 years old, and he didn't graduate high school. Ivan Tamba was 20-some years old when he got hired by AWS. No work experience whatsoever. And he was not an intern. And he was not an associate architect. He was a real architect. Coyote, upon graduation, got hired by AWS. And I could give you examples. Vladimir, I forget where he got his first architect job fresh out of school. You don't need to get an internship. Get a real job. Get a job that pays you $150,000, $200,000 a year as your first job. That's what our students do on average. Now, and that's the key, and that's the key. So that's my recommendation. It's not some first certification. No one cares. Now, I would get the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and I'd probably get a network or data center certification as well. But it's not about certification. It's about actual knowledge. You got to be prepared to do the job. Nobody wants to hire a young person that doesn't know. They want to hire somebody that's got energy, enthusiasm, passion, capabilities. And the reason people don't hire people for basic intro jobs anymore is I want to give you the statistics on Gen Z. The average Gen Z person, which is basically the youth now that are graduating college, stays at a position for 2.2 years, statistically speaking. Now, it takes 1 to 2 years to train somebody for a position if they're entry level. So if they hire someone that doesn't have the capabilities to do the job, and the person leaves when it takes 2 years to hire them to get good in 2 years, the company actually trained their competitors because the person's going to go to their competition. So the key is develop the skills for a good, strong job. Become great and get yourself a wonderful job. And then don't compete with the people that are trying to get internships. Compete with the people that are trying to get jobs. And who wouldn't like a young, energetic fireball that wants to learn, that's got great skills, energy, enthusiasm, and passion? You get a great job.
Right. So that was our last question.
I want to address the E2008 GT guy's question, what he said, because I know plenty of architects in England that are earning 200,000 pounds sterling, 300,000 pounds sterling, and I'm gonna tell you the difference between the people that are earning 110,000 pounds and 200,000 and 300,000 pounds, and I've worked with a lot of them. It's business acumen, it's executive presence, it's communication skills, it's CXO relevancy. That's what separates the difference between the architects. Now, a lot of people actually think the more technical they are, the better architects they become. And in the technical architect world, that's actually the truth. But in these solution architect jobs, it's more businessy. So if you have a job you love, great. But if you don't love the job you have and you're looking for more, my suggestion is to focus on the business acumen piece. I've literally watched people in the UK and all over the world get a 100,000 pound raise and a $100,000 raise, $150,000 raise in a short period of time by focusing on all those elite business skills. So I would work on that if that's your goal. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. There is lots of opportunity, and I remember hiring lots of people from that part of the world, as well as continental Europe, which is where I'm from. And sometimes we would look at people's salaries and we'd be like, wow, we can get them on a discount. And then when we found them, we put them through some business acumen training. And wow, what a difference it made in their career 2 or 3 years later. So 4 years experience, you're probably an incredible architect right now. But that's generally speaking the difference between raising someone's salary a lot. It's typically on the business acumen side. So think about that, because I want the best from you, because you've been working in this field. Being an architect's great, kind of just as a rule.
All right. So any last words, Mike or Alonso?
Well, it's always a pleasure. This is some of the things that we live for, is being able to understand that we're not a boot camp. B, we're trying to get people to understand that your career, your trajectory, your future can never be surmised through a boot camp. You're not going to get the competency, the experience, the ability to do a $200,000+ position with a limited amount of content via boot camp. So understand that our focus is your career, and we tend to treat it as such through our development, training, execution, your experience, and create a great experience for you. So continue to ask your questions. We're always here to help. Go through our website, go through our different ways of communicating with us and reaching out to us for any additional questions. Schedule a video conference, and we're always going to be there to answer your questions. What about you, gentlemen?
I don't have much to add. I'm exhausted coming off of COVID. I'm just tired. So I'm going to leave it to you gentlemen to talk.
I just want to let you know that you can accomplish anything you desire. Nothing is impossible. You know, whether it was Columbus who discovered the Caribbean when the world thought the world was flat, wasn't exactly America, it was the Caribbean, but all kinds of great stuff comes out of the Caribbean. Or it was, you know, the Mac, where it was the first person in space, or it's the speed and all the world records that Usain Bolt broke, or it's the world records that Michael Phelps slashed, or it's watching oh my God, she's incredible, Simone Biles on the bars, on the beam, on the floor. Whether it's a 20-year-old Daniel Bosu who dropped out of high school getting hired as a solution architect, whether it was me leaving internal medicine and being a principal architect within 2 years, any of you can do anything you desire. I mean it. There's nothing is impossible. Nothing. If you have the right plan and you get the right training, coaching, whatever your thing is, in sports it's coaching and careers it's education, but whatever it is, you have the right worth ethic and you don't quit until you win, you'll never lose. And whether it's a boxing match where it's the person who just won't quit in the end, no matter how hard they get hit, they keep getting up, or whether it's your career, don't quit on you. You can literally do anything you want. 13 doctors told me I'd never walk again after an injury or could never even sit in a chair again. They tried to put me on a morphine pump, which I laughed at. And I went to physical therapy 8 hours each day after a catastrophic injury. I'm here today with you all. So don't let anybody tell you no, ever, of things that you can't achieve. I mean, there's time where no means no, and we all know when those times are. But, you know, in your career, there is nothing stopping you other than, in most cases, us. We stop ourselves. We put the limitations on ourselves. Don't limit what you can do. Go after your dreams and go conquer your dreams. And when you're successful, tell me, because it's every success story. And I don't care if it's you running a 4-minute mile. I don't care if it's you getting an $800,000 chief architect job, and there's plenty of them out there. I don't care if it's you writing the book that you've dreamed about your entire life. Conquer your dreams. Just go conquer your dreams. I used to practice medicine. I know how the game ends. And let me tell you, you want to fulfill every dream you have in your life. Thank you so much for attending. I look forward to seeing so many of you in the Elite Architect Information session on Thursday. Come, ask us your questions. We can do a face-to-face call because it'll be live in a platform where we can look and talk to each other and go build the life of your dreams.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Tyrone, if you can put that link in the chat box one last time. There we go. All right. Thank you all. See you on Thursday.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.